Well, hello everyone. Good to have you here and good to be back. As you can see, I've got a new toy, this microphone that I'm going to try. Let's see how everything sounds with my new toy. But thanks for joining me and thanks for taking the time to listen. As always, I appreciate your support. And my mission, my goal is if I can inspire one person, if I can encourage one person, that is one person who is important today. So let's get straight into it. Today I'm going to be talking about perspective. How we see things. How do you see things? And what's gotten me to talking about perspective is things have been a little bit tough for most people, post pandemic. And here in the Southern Hemisphere, we've gone straight into winter. And I work in the healthcare sector, so we're short staffed, we're stretched. And I know it's not just the health sector, it's the hospitality industry and a whole lot of other places that are just stretched because people are sick or people have had to downsize, and things like that. And so when things are hard and things are difficult, sometimes it's really hard to be positive, and it's hard to feel encouraged, and it's hard to even feel like maybe there's an end to it, or especially you've come out of a pandemic and then we're in this, just a season where it just feels like every single day you're stretched, and so I've been thinking, okay, how can I encourage my team? What can I do to support them? Because I totally get it. But then one thing that I've noticed is sometimes perspective can make a difference in how we respond, how we react, and how we come out of certain situations. So basically, that's how I've landed here. So, what is perspective? Perspective is a way of thinking and particular attitude towards something. That's just perspective. That's why I said, how do you see? So it's a way of thinking. It's a way of seeing. It's an attitude that we all have towards something, or some people call it a viewpoint. And perspective is very, very important. It plays a huge part in our day to day, in everything that we're doing every day, and the decisions that we make, the choices that we make or don't make. Perspective, the way I see it, it's actually it's what defines what we see. So your perspective a lot of the times will define what you see. It also defines what we hear and sometimes how we feel, because our feelings are normally swayed, moved, influenced by what we see and what we hear. So closely connected are all these things. Let's talk a little bit more about it. So, like I said, life can be so busy, and at the moment, life is really, really busy. And I'm a leader of people, I lead teams. I've been finding that people that I work with, they're finding it's a struggle to keep things in perspective at the moment. I really struggle, and to see the good which sits sometimes along the bad, or the grays amongst the black and white. It can be challenging. And like I said before, more so in the last few years and the last few winter months for us, when we've just been stretched and under tremendous pressure with workloads and shortages of personnel. And so what I've discovered is when we are stressed, or when we experience stress for a significant period of time, it affects our perspective. And it can create what's called a negative bias sometimes. So it's hard to maintain positivity when your perspective is being shaped by pressure and stress and stretch. And so what happens is we then focus more on the worst case scenarios, or on the negative viewpoints of most situations, or even of our day, or whatever it is that we're going through. And you know what? Without intending to, we zero into all the things that are not working. Yeah. And then what then happens is then we miss out the things that are actually working out around us. So at work, you find, sometimes it's like you get there and these are the people that we have. And so everyone is just focused on the fact that we're short staffed. It's heavy, it's busy, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And sometimes we then miss out on the people that are around us and the little things. The fact that today we managed to work as a team. Today, everybody managed to have breaks. Today, we Mrs. So and so actually made a few steps. Today, Mr. So and so smiled at me. And those are little things that, you can miss out because we are so focused on how stressful it is and how difficult it is and how heavy it is, and really you just feel like everything is wrong. And I hear people saying nobody listens to us, nobody cares about how we feel, nobody's doing anything, and things are not getting any better, and it's unfair, and it's hard, and on and on it goes. And sometimes there's just no answers to it. But I got thinking, what would it be like if we adopted a different perspective? Made a decision to look at things a little bit differently every single day. What difference would it make? I don't know. It's a question that I'm throwing to you, everybody. What's been your experience? What is it that you have had to consciously do so that you're not feeling down in the dumps all the time? Anyway, I want to look at some examples of how perspective works. I think it'll be really good if we can look at some examples of how perspective works. I'll just scroll down my screen a little bit. So, for example, in the morning, when you look at the dawn, you look at the sunrise, what do you see? So someone sees a beautiful sunrise. Wow, take photos, it's beautiful. And yet another person will be filled with anxiety and dread and think, oh, it's the start of another day. Like they're filled with dread for another day. Same sunrise, two different perspectives. Another one is one person gets a medical diagnosis, which is not good, and sees it as the end of their life and a reason to give up and die. And yet another person gets the same diagnosis and sees a reason to stand up and fight and encourage other people who are on the same journey. Perspective. One person retires from their job and goes downhill. Oh, I'm old, I'm retired, I've got no life. And another person retires and guess what? They go traveling, they pick up a new hobby, and things like that. They learn a new skill even. Perspective. Someone sees social media as time wasting, negative, confusing, difficult. I know there's people out there that just hate social media because they just think it's no good. Everything is negative. And yet someone else sees a beautiful, endless stream of enthusiastic ideas, leads, business leads, business opportunities, learning opportunities. Again, perspective. Someone once said a photographer can't change the view. They can't change what they're looking at, right? So what do? They change the size of the lens, the camera lens. They change the size of the lens and they change the angle of the camera so that they get a better shot, or they get the best shot out of what they're looking at. And that's a little bit like perspective. Sometimes you can't change what you're going through. You can't change what's happening around you, but you can change the lens. You can change the way you look at it. You can change the how you filter it. You can change the angle. Try and see it from a different point of view, right? And so what am I saying? I'm just saying when you can't change your view, for example, things have been bad because of COVID, right? You can't change that. Things haven't been going as well as you would like. Maybe you made this big decision and it feels like you made the biggest mistake of your life. You feel like a failure maybe because something hasn't worked out quite the way you thought it would work out. Well, what do? You can't change that. But what you can do is to change the perspective of the situation. I was telling my daughter, and I said, look at it this way. This is hard, but actually, you know, you did good because you made the step. You made the decision to do something. You made a move. That's bold. That's brave. There's a lot of people that can't even do that. So that's a different perspective to say, actually, I did it. I did it. I didn't know what was going to come. I didn't know what it was going to look like, but I had the guts, the boldness to actually take the step and do it. So that's perspective. Give yourself on this. So is it a total failure? Of course not. Absolutely not, because you made that step and you've learned so many lessons along the way. Right? And the way I see it, perspective has a lot to do with choice, right? You can choose to change or even improve your perspective. Sometimes we've got to learn, unlearn. So if you've grown up in a negative environment, or if you've been in an environment that's been influencing you to see things in a certain perspective, you might have to unlearn that, unlearn those habits, and so improve your perspective, improve how you see things, improve how you view things. So just like you can improve your vision, or you can change the lens, you can actually improve your perspective. So what am I saying? So here it is in 2 single sentences for you. You see what you want to see at the end of the day. That's why I said perspective is a choice. You see what you want to see. So what does that mean? You can choose what you want to see. So I'm looking at this, but actually I'm going to see this. I'm looking at what looks like failure, but I'm going to see it as a learning opportunity. I'm looking at what looks hard, but I'm going to look at it as an opportunity to strengthen my muscles, whatever they are, whether they're your mental muscles, your physical muscles, whatever it is. I'm looking at this diagnosis, but I'm going to look at it as an opportunity to live my life to the fullest for whatever amount of time I've got. And things like that. Maybe start a charity to raise funds for that particular disease that you're going through. Whatever it is, the kids have left home. Oh my gosh, the house is empty. It's sad. I miss them. But I'm going to look at it as an opportunity that wherever they've gone, maybe that's the opportunity I have to actually go and visit that place. Like I said, learn a new hobby. So you see what you want to see. You see what you choose to see. And the other thing is, big problems create big opportunities. So, instead of focusing on that big problem and seeing nothing else, just try and think about what's the opportunity is in this. What else could come out of this? What could I learn out of this? What could I create out of this? You might learn to run away very fast. Again, that's a lesson. Next time you come across that, run as fast as you can and get as far away as you can from that person, that situation. That's a lesson, right? You learned it the hard way, but you learned it, and you're not going to be burnt twice. So that's just an extreme example. But, I think you get what I'm trying to say. Big problems create big opportunities. So don't just always see the problem, but try and change your angle, change your lens, find the opportunity in there. And again, like I said, you see what you want to see. You can either see opportunities or barriers. You can either see successes or failures. You can see loyalty or disloyalty. You can see doom and gloom, or you can actually see something bright and something with potential. You can see reasons to act or not to act. All this is perspective. So you see what you want to see. Like I said, someone will see something, encounter something frightening, and all they do is freeze and think I'm dead. Or you can see a reason to act, turn and run as fast as you can. You can see opportunities to buy, opportunities to sell. You are what you are searching for. Whatever it is you're searching for, you are it, because you can make the choices, you can make the decisions to get there. As I was just reading around, looking around about this, perspectives and things like that, I found this information that says in 2008, I don't know if people remember, but I'm sure there's a few people remember that there was a big recession that impacted the whole world. Actually, some people might not have felt it, but yeah. So there was a lot of doom and gloom. People lost everything. People committed suicide. Businesses crumbled, relationships crumbled, and people lost their minds. Literally, people ended up living in their cars on the street and things like that. But despite all that, there are also many big successful companies, believe it or not, that were started during the same time. I'll give you a few examples. Airbnb, we all talk about, I booked this through Airbnb and I booked that through Airbnb. That started in 2008. Pinterest, if you're on social media, you'll know what Pinterest is. That started also around that time, later on in 2009. Uber, most of us use Uber now. That started in 2009. Instagram, IG, started in 2009. It feels like Instagram has been here forever, right? But yeah, it was only a few years ago. And it was formed through a very difficult time. WhatsApp is another one that started in 2009. So, even though there was that recession and all those things going on, but there were also big opportunities and some people made it big. And so, again, perspective. I'm not even going to go into the epic companies that have been born out of the recent COVID pandemic. There's so much that has happened, and we'll start to hear it over time. How even though it was difficult, even though it was negative for a lot of people, but there's also a lot of good that has come out of it. And sometimes it's perspective. And I mean, this is not generic. Of course, there's different situations and different circumstances, but the point of all this is for you to see that perspective can lead you in a completely different direction sometimes if you just allow yourself to view things through a different lens, or to think about things in a slightly different way. Right. And so, yeah, I'm not going to take a lot of time today. But just to conclude, throw together some thoughts. So think about your attitude lately. What's that been like? Or even the attitude of the people around you, the people you live with, the people you associate with, the people you work with. When things are hard, as they've been in the last few months, last few years, human nature defaults to what's not working, what's painful, what's hard, what's negative. And because it's uncomfortable, we don't like it. Of course we don't like it. And so our self-preservation and self-defense mechanism kicks in. Because if I don't like something, if it's too painful, I want to protect myself from it. I want to get away from it. I want to preserve myself. So it's like, I've been hurt. I've been disappointed. I've been betrayed before. So what do? I automatically look at things through the lens of pain, mistrust, of fear. Because I don't want to go through that again, right? But guess what happens when you do that? This then makes things look and feel harder than they actually are. So you've been hurt in that other relationship because you don't want to be hurt. So it affects this person that's probably better for you or even good, that's trying to come into your life, and you end up self-sabotaging, for example. It just, makes things look, opportunities you look through a lens of mistrust. What if they're lying to me? What if it doesn't work out? And what if things don't go right? And, what if I do this and then it doesn't happen? What if it fails? And things like that. So you lose the light that comes with positivity and hope. Because positivity and hope, there's a certain light that comes. You see things in a certain way. But I have learned, and what I want to tell you is, having a different perspective, especially a positive perspective, can be contagious. It really, really can. Because sometimes we're talking about a team at the moment at work that's feeling quite discouraged and dismal, and we're like, how do we change the culture? We need to change the culture. We need people to start seeing that, what, this is a good place to work. This is a good team. Regardless of what we're going through, we actually work with really good people. We are good people. We're a good team. But people are just not seeing that at the moment, and I started thinking, actually, you know what, all it takes is one person. One person, make a choice, change your perspectives, change the way you see things, change your narrative, change the way you speak about things. And that can be contagious to the next person, the next person, and the next person, and change the whole atmosphere of wherever it is that you are. So, because what happens is, if you're around people that are feeling negative and discouraged because of what's going on around them, you then bring a different perspective that challenges them differently, because it's not thinking, what is it about you? You know what I mean? After all, things are often not what they seem. And most of the time, we are going off limited information, people. You've got very limited information. There's a lot sometimes that's going on in the background that you don't know. There's a lot that's happening that you might not have the information to, that you might not even have realized. And because we're not all knowing God, we don't know everything. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen next week. And so we're going off of limited information. And a lot of the times we're going off of what we've experienced, what we know, what we hear, what we see. And all these things are limited. Right? So, yeah. So let's be contagious with the way we view things. And the other thing is, adopting a different perspective causes you to dig deeper for more information, right? You see something, it causes you to ask questions for better understanding. So if someone is acting weird and they're acting cray-cray, they're acting crazy, having a different perspective could be, what is it that's going on? What's triggering them? For some people, it's the stress of whatever it is that they're going through. It's fear, it's anxiety, it's, all sorts of things that might be triggering them. And so when you adopt a different perspective, instead of just stereotyping people or putting people in one box, you start to think, okay, what else is going on here? What else might be going on? What could we do differently to help this person, to support that person, and things like that? Or what is it that's making this so difficult? And sometimes you realize, actually, you know what? It's not as bad as I thought, or as we thought, or whatever it is. So, yeah, adopting a different perspective, it causes you to consider other possibilities and facts, without jumping into premature conclusions. And that's what a lot of people do. They jump into conclusions, and meanwhile, you don't have the facts. There's a lot of information, missing pieces in the information that you have, or in the picture that you see. And perspective also helps to handle disappointment. When we're disappointed, when we're hurt, it helps to handle disappointment, pain, failure, and the unexpected. Because, life throws curveballs at us all the time. Things happen unexpectedly. But when you're the kind of person who has healthy perspective, it actually helps you to handle those situations, to go through that, and hopefully come out of the other side in one piece. I'm not saying it's not going to hurt. I'm not saying it's not going to disappoint. I'm not saying you're not going to fall. But it just helps you to handle things differently sometimes. And in conclusion, perspective gives us the ability to make choices without making judgments first. All right. It's almost like it gives every situation the benefit of the doubt sometimes, which is what we need. So, yeah, there's a lot that we could talk about, but these are some of the thoughts that I've just been putting together and thinking about lately. Because I'm like, oh my God, sometimes I really get frustrated. I'm like, come on, guys, you're doing so well. Or, you see someone and you want to encourage them, but they just don't see it. They don't see, they're just seeing how horrible and difficult their life is at that moment. And I'm just like, you're doing so well. You are amazing. but they don't see it. And the thing is, when someone doesn't see it themselves, it's really, really difficult for you to convince them otherwise. And it's difficult for you to help them to get out of that situation. Yeah, it's difficult and it's frustrating if it's someone close to you. It's frustrating if it's someone that you interact with all the time. And so, the one thing that I want us to take away today is healthy perspective can be contagious. So, regardless of your environment, you can be the one that will start the chain of change. And also, big problems come also with big opportunities. Big problems, big opportunities. You see what you want to see. Those three things. Well, thanks for taking the time to listen to me, to connect with me. As always, I appreciate you. And yeah, and my encouragement to you is never stop trying, never stop going for it. If it hasn't been done yet, it's been waiting for you. Ask yourself, has it been done? If the answer is yes, well, why can't you do it? Hasn't it been done? Well, why can't you be the first one to do it? Right? Anyway, until the next time, you take care and just keep being you.